Hello, my name is Taylor-Tommila, and this is How to Films. And as a photographer, I'm constantly on the lookout for new locations to shoot in and different ways to shoot them. And one of those different ways is what, Oren?
Hyperlapses.
That's right, hyperlapses, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So I would really like to experiment with hyperlapse photography. I found this actually very relaxing and an excellent test of patience. What is a hyperlapse? Well, a hyperlapse is an exposure technique in time-lapse photography in which the position of the camera is being changed between each exposure in order to create a tracking shot in time-lapse sequences. In contrast to a simple motion time-lapse, in hyperlapse photography, the camera is being moved through very long distances. While this process can be pretty intimidating at first, breaking it down to a few simple steps will help things for you considerably. A hyperlapse has a lot of moving parts, so you have to plan ahead accordingly. For my final shot, I want to have a 6-second clip of here at Oren High School here in Longview, Washington. So I want my final shot to be backing all the way out from this tower right here behind me. And I want to set my project up at 1080p at 30 frames per second. So I need to capture at least 180 photos. To figure out the number of photos you'll need for your hyperlapse, use this really simple formula. You take seconds, you times that by the frames per second of the final sequence, which is 30, and equals out to be the number of photos you need. For instance, I will need to shoot 180 photos to get 6 seconds of video, i.e. 6 seconds times 30 frames per second equals 180 photographs. I also want to capture the images in a high enough resolution that will allow me to zoom in on the photos, because no ground is created equal, and shooting hyperlapses is on uneven ground can be difficult to edit later. Also, shooting in a high resolution will give me the opportunity to animate scale and position properties in post. And of course, I'll be shooting in RAW. With scouted locations for a possible hyperlapse shot, you need to make note of a few different things. First, you need to find a point of reference that you can use to keep all of your images aligned. Hyperlapses like lines and shapes on the ground that can help you and you're moving your tripod. It can limit you with the composition of your shot, but sometimes it's better to change the framing a little bit to get way better results. And don't forget to follow the line with 2 legs of your tripod, not just the one. Now, our long shoot here, I've selected point of reference as the top of this tower right behind me, right in the center. When shooting a hyperlapse, this point will always remain in the center of my frame. Next, you will need to check the point of reference from different positions. You'll want to make sure that the composition looks good throughout the entire hyperlapse. It's easy to start a hyperlapse and then realize at the end of your framing, it's all out of whack. Like with this hyperlapse here, I hadn't had the time. I had the red house in frame, but I didn't check my final shot and had to go under the bridge and I lost sight of the house. Finally, it's important to find something that will guide you along as you're shooting. For my shot, I will use the reference point up here at the top of this tower, and that'll keep me equal distance from that point at all times. Once you've probably scouted the location, you can begin to shoot. There are a few tricks to keep in mind when shooting a hyperlapse. The first one is once you start shooting, keep shooting and do it at a regular pace. The pacing and timing of your shots are so important. I'm spending roughly 1 second for each image, and I'm taking 1 full step backwards and using the guide points on the ground of the lines here to guide me. The reason you want to pace yourself is so that you can get smooth movement with anything that's changing in frame. By properly pacing myself between each shot, the motion should look smooth in the final hyperlapse shot. It's also very important to keep the point of interest in the same spot for each frame. Use a guide or a grid on the viewfinder display to keep the point of the same location throughout the hyperlapse. I'm keeping my point of interest in the center of my frame for each photograph. Blinking cars and people in your hyperlapse isn't very cool, all right? You won't get them as smooth as in the time lapse because of the longer intervals. But still, a little blurry person looks way better than a person just standing still and itching through the frame. setting longer exposure time during daytime can be difficult, but you probably need to use some ND filters, like we're using right now on our cameras here. So have you ever shot a hyperlapse? Well, share your experience in the comment section below. I'm Tommila. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to watch this video. So make sure you please subscribe to my channel and hit that like button if you did like this channel and did like this video. And please become a patron. As always, my cameraman is Oren Tommila. Remember, photography isn't about depth of field, it's about depth of feeling. See ya.